Football's back!
Hello and welcome back to the Brit Iron Podcast. Today we've got a hot episode for you. We'll be looking back at week 1 a little bit, but we'll also be previewing week 2, and there's a lot of tasty fixtures heading into week 2. But to start off with, we have the news, and of course, Sam and Matt are with me today. So boys, to kick it off, first bit of news. Lev Bell.
Oh, don't.
Potentially could be out for a few weeks now. And all in all, Jets not looking too good, right?
You say that again.
Yeah, I think, you know what, this just saves me a decision on Sunday, talking myself into making a bad fantasy decision. He didn't really show me enough, and I think, we didn't really see on Red Zone a Jets highlight for the first half. I was
Gase out.
I was like, what's going on here? We had to put the game on to see a little bit, and even then you saw him do his hamstring. I was like, well, that's that then. Glad I got to see that, but yeah, this just looks like a bit of a Gase nightmare.
Any luck for every Jets fan, and Adam Gase will be watching Red Zone from his sofa this time in 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Hashtag Gase out.
Yep.
I was going to say it's a hot take, but it's not really, is it?
It's not a hot take.
A standard take.
He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a football team. If I had my own organisation, I wouldn't let him give the players water. I wouldn't have him nowhere near. He's nothing but an extra body in the building to potentially give my players COVID. Get out.
So you heard it here first. Adam Gase, not good enough to even be a water boy. That's what we're saying on this podcast, I think, is it?
Don't like him. Get rid of him.
Yeah.
Come on. There's got to be someone better. I'll do it. I'll probably be better than Adam Gase.
I reckon with Lev Bell will be out, and we saw it happen. There was a little bit in pre-season. Had that little injury. He was saying, I'm fine. They were saying he's not. When he gets better from this, or give it a couple weeks, is Gase be like, no, he's not ready yet. I think this could even lead to him just saying, get rid of me, trade me, I want out, don't want to play a sort of thing. I think this is going to lead to more drama, I think.
Everyone wants out of New York at the moment. It's just everyone wants away from Gase. And can you blame them?
No.
I mean,
not at all.
yeah.
Hashtag Gase out.
I think we've rained on Gase's parade a little bit too much for this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
we've lost all the Jets fans
don't you worry.
there,
Wait
I was
till we
gonna
do
say,
the
I was
Jets
gonna
preview
say.
for next week. I'll be getting into it.
But we'll move it swiftly on to perhaps the second news article of the week and the final news article of the week. And that's surrounding Michael Thomas. Picked up a high ankle sprain week 1 versus the Bucks. But there's hopes that he can play through it. What do we make of this, boys?
I'd be intrigued on this because although obviously result didn't go the way we wanted, let's clear that up early, but shut him down relatively well. He didn't have a monster game. Maybe, we don't know whenabouts he did this during the game. I'd be concerned for week 2 with him. I think he might be out there, but it might be more as a little bit of a decoy, use him if they have to, because they've got enough other weapons. This makes me a bit nervous.
This really worries me for Michael Thomas as a player and a person. If you see it a lot in the NFL, there's this kind of hard man environment where if you've got an injury that you can play through, you're expected to play through. And if he's saying, oh, I can play through it, then yeah, maybe he can play through it. But how long, would it be better for him to just take a couple of weeks off and come back at 100% rather than potentially play for the rest of the season with this niggling injury? You see it all the time, receivers and all sorts of positions. They play with niggling injuries and they play at 80% and they're not as good. No one gets the best. It'd probably be better for them to just take a couple of weeks off, get back to health and then come back and dominate at 100%, which I'm hoping that's what happens if that's what needs to happen. Hopefully the Saints won't mishandle it, but I would imagine they're probably one of the better organisations for kind of handling things like that.
I think this could be the player though. I think if he feels like he can, I feel like he's going to want to be out there. Because obviously he doesn't know what the plan is after Breeze. He's only got a window of Breeze. I don't know, maybe he's probably going to want to just, capitalise. I could see him trying to push, and you said the sort of hard man image of the NFL, wanting to be out there. And maybe doing himself more damage. I don't know. This one, it worries me, this.
Yeah, all I'm thinking is a penny for the thought of the guy in our listener league who picked up Michael Thomas at the 3rd pick in the draft. That could be a tough one to take.
Oh, that's hilarious. I forgot about that.
Potentially Emmanuel Sanders, if Thomas is out, could have some value in going into week 2. Definitely gets a boost. Maybe Traquan Smith as well. That was receiver room. Suddenly one of those guys has got to absorb a fair chunk of targets.
Yeah, definitely one of the fancy front to look out for, which I'm sure we'll cover in our fantasy episodes coming out later this week.
Indeed.
Cheeky little plug there.
Of
Cheeky
course,
little plug.
always be plugging. But to move on past the news and onto a new segment, which Sam, I'd like you to introduce. What is the name of the segment?
Right, so this is our outrageous reactions. All around the industry of podcasts and NFL media, everyone gets involved in like Overreaction Monday. And, you know, we're no different. We're going to get involved. But I figured we don't just want to go for an overreaction. I want an outrageous reaction from you boys. Something that's like you just cannot... We're not even going to try and say why. It's just going off of week one, we're going to make an outrageous reaction. And my outrageous reaction, Gardner Minshew, he's going to maintain that passing accuracy. He's going to go 16 games with 95% completion rate. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns a game for the next 15 games. He's going to win the MVP, and the Jags are going to the playoffs, all on the back of that beautiful stash.
Did not lie when you said outrageous.
Yeah, that is... I mean, I love
that's
it.
a step above.
Having him in fantasy, if that happens, happy days. I'm here for it, but you've set the bar for outrageous there.
He is going all the way.
I love it. Minshew Mania running wild.
I would love to see that. I feel like we should have got the headbands out and the
fake stash
Minshew gear and that we saw.
Maybe I should have grown the stash out a little bit.
Oh yeah, you are giving it a go, aren't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, little zoom in and do you nicely there, Sam.
You should leave it. Until Minshew loses a game,
that's
leave
a
the
good
stash. How about this?
Oh my god,
Until the Jags lose.
I would definitely get fired.
I mean, do it for the outrageous
Come on.
reaction.
They got the Titans at the weekend. At least run it till that. Come on.
Come on.
Oh dear.
I'll agree to the same if mine comes true, I guess.
What? You will also not shave?
Yeah, I'll do it with you. That's what I was going to say. I'll do it
Says
with
the
you.
guy with the beard. Like, yeah, I won't shave.
And so will Matt.
Yeah, all right. Go on then. Let's all do it.
We'll do it together.
Until
It's better
the
as a
Jags
team.
lose.
Fine.
All right.
No one shaves.
We've had it here. The outrageous reactions gone well for Sam.
Here we go. Won't
Okay,
shave until Gardner Minshew loses.
This
hold
could
you
be
to that.
interesting.
By the way, that's just my tash. I'm going to shave the rest of my
Yeah. Don't look too
prepubescent face.
But I guess that leads on to my reaction,
Let's have
which I'll bring it down a little bit. I don't think mine is as outrageous as yours, Sam. But mine surrounds Josh Jacobs, who's a guy I've been very high on in our preview series. Previously, I said he'll be a top 5 running back on the year. I'm going to upgrade that after watching him week 1 to top 2. In particular for rushing yards, I think he'll go for over 1.5 thousand.
I was hoping you were going to go big there.
Yeah,
I was hoping
like
for
the 2K,
2,000
the 2K.
rushing yards.
I mean, based on his average from game 1, he could easily do 1.5k. So, even pushing 1.6, you never know. But I think he'll be a top 2 running back this year.
Clearing 2K all-purpose, maybe edging towards.
Come on,
2.5
give us something
all-purpose,
spicy.
a
We've
big
seen
season,
CJ2K.
a
We've seen
CMC kind of
CJ2K.
season.
Give us JJ2K.
You know what? I'll double down. I'll go 2k on that.
Oh,
I'll meet you there.
I love
2k,
it.
Lovely,
Josh
that's
Jacobs.
what we love.
I'll take it.
Love
I'll
that.
take it. I can easily see that happening, no doubt.
he
So
come on,
started
Matt.
well. Right.
Yeah.
Time for you to round us off here, Matt. I
I'm gonna
want something
round it
extra
off.
spicy. Give me the Vindaloo of takes.
The Vindaloo of takes. Right, you've built this now. So, there was one offense that stood out to me massively. And I think it's a guy that he's been annoyed all off-season. He got done dirty in the draft, and that's Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Green Bay win the Super Bowl. Rodgers MVP, 5,000 passing yards, comes out, hammers it home this season. The offense looked on fire.
I'll tack onto that Jordan Love cut next offseason.
Yeah. Jordan Love.
That would be
Some of the organisation like, oh yeah, just go clean Rodgers' boots or something. Like his cleats are a bit dirty, mate.
This time next year, Jordan Love will be watching Red Zone with Adam Gase.
I mean, if they picked up Jordan Love just to fire up Aaron Rodgers, and it does pay off for them,
It could be the move. Like, imagine.
Yep.
hell of a play. Hell of a play. They could always trade him. You never know. But
What a time
you know
to be
what?
alive.
Those 3 reactions, I like them quite a lot.
Can't wait to
It's-
clip them
they're-
at the end of this year or halfway through.
There is some sense in them. Maybe I was going too sensible initially, and I think 2K is, I like that.
2K,
I like that.
I like it.
I like Josh Jacobs, so I can see that happening.
JJ2K.
JJ2K, hashtag that. But yeah,
Along with hashtag Gase out.
one or t'other. But yeah, I like those a lot, and that leads us very nicely into our week 2 preview section. So, to kick it off with the week 2 matchups, we have a Thursday night football game where the Bengals are going in to Cleveland to play the mighty Browns. Both teams off the back of a loss week 1. Bengals against the Chargers, and obviously Browns against my Ravens. Browns are slight favourites in this game, minus 5.5 on the spread. And now, game 1, Bengals lost to a last-minute field goal miss, which would have tied the game, and you never know what would have happened there.
Yep.
But after a fairly good showing from Burrow, do you guys reckon they'll be able to pile on more pain to the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this could very easily be a Bengals win. I think Burrow looked good, and he's going to have teething problems. He's a rookie quarterback who's had a limited off-season, but Burrow looked good, and there were a number of things in that performance that he showed and he put on tape that I really liked. Specifically, that drive he put together at the end to put them in the position to, win the game. Mm-hmm. He had a touchdown caught in the end zone that was pulled back because of offensive pass interference. Like, that is, he made the play. He got let down by other people on his offense making the mistake. He drove them downfield, looked very comfortable in that kind of pressure situation in his first game in the NFL. When you contrast that to what the Browns did, where Baker came out with pressure on him and he laid an egg. To come out in your first drive and throw a sloppy interception, he was staring down Odell Beckham Jr. at points. The three of us were watching the games, and at one point Matt turned around and he was like, is he looking at anybody else on the field? It's literally like the ball would get spiked. He'd look up, see where Beckham was, and just throw it in that direction and hope that Beckham made a play. Now,
it was 50 Shades of Jameis. That's all I saw out there.
It
looked very Jameis Winston to me.
Exactly. And with the Browns suffering so much with various injuries in their secondary, they could really struggle if this offense doesn't get going. So I could actually see the Bengals pulling this off. In terms of Ackers wise, parlay wise, however you want to call it, I'd be taking the Browns with the spread here.
The Browns with the spread?
The Browns. Sorry, the Bengals.
I was like, that's a
wow.
twist.
I was going to say, that was very...
Spend 5 minutes explaining something to them, be like, but actually...
My biggest concern here is that Browns offensive line. Like, we can give Baker all the stick we want, but he was running for his life at points. Obviously, the Ravens, they're a good team. I'm not reading a massive amount into this. I want to see a few weeks of this Browns team, but if that offensive line looks like that every week, Baker's in trouble. Yeah. It's going to be a nightmare for him because it's all going to be put on him. This Robbie was so cocky when he came in that if he now has another bad season, I feel for him. And if it is just him running for his life, could be a nightmare. Whereas Burrow, that first touchdown run, he was on a page with that offensive lineman. The way that lineman knew he wasn't going to throw it, wasn't going to be a legal man downfield, got ahead of him, got the block in for an early game without any preseason. For your rookie quarterback to be on a page with the line like that, that's a great sign for me.
He's got some wheels as well. Did not expect that out of him.
Yeah. So I think this is a trap game for the Browns, I would say, in that they could come into this very much like, we're going to bounce back. We're going to come in. It's Thursday night football, all of that. And if they come out 0-2, there is just going to be the media around this team and everything is going to be a nightmare for them. And the characters like OBJ, he's not going to hide it if he's annoyed. Because he was getting in space at points. It was just Baker was having to rush the pass, and it was 10 foot this way, 10 foot that way. Could be problems.
And Njoku's out injured now potentially as well. And Njoku came up clutch on a couple plays that could potentially really hurt the Browns.
Yeah, I'm quietly optimistic about the Browns. Just to contrary what both of you just said.
Let's go, James.
This is a new head coach. Limited preseason to work with them. They've got a very talented offense, and this is just one game. We saw other teams, namely the Bucks and the 49ers, come up very short this week as well. Didn't look as bad as the Browns did, granted, but the Browns did go against a very solid Ravens team, a very solid Ravens defense.
Yeah.
So it's hard to read into week 1. There is concerns over the O-line and, like you said, Matt Baker running for his life and trying to hit OBJ on like 30 of 30 passes, what it felt like at the time. But I think give them time. They'll be all right. And maybe this game is a good point for them to begin to steer the ship in the right direction. And I know I mentioned it before we started recording this. I still think they'll make the playoffs this season.
I think an upside for them.
James, we've done with the spicy take.
Yeah, the outrageous take.
That ain't spicy. It's
the offensive line might not have been good in pass protection, but between Chubb and Hunt, they were averaging, I think, 5.5 and 6 yards respectively a carry. Yeah. So maybe they're just going to have to lean more that way. I think they kind of knew this game was gone, so they just wanted to give Hunt a run and see if he could produce. I'm not reading a massive amount into the share between those two. I think Chubb is still, we'll see him come out, and if they're playing well and in a lead, it'll be Chubb. I think they wanted to give Hunt a proper run out. Yeah. So I think that's maybe their route back into this, is to try and have the defense step up and not get them so behind. But obviously, against the Ravens, it's going to happen. So this might be a more realistic test for them. So I think if they can come out with a win here, Baker doesn't look as just all over the place, and they lean on the run, they can start to, as James said, right that ship early. But I think this is the Bengals must be coming into this thinking, right, we can capitalise. So I think this could be a brilliant game to watch.
And it's a divisional game as well, which is going to be quite exciting to watch. So looking forward to that one on Thursday night. Now, moving on to the 6 p.m. slate in the UK, or 1 p.m. if you're in North America. And we'll start off with the Buffalo Bills against the Dolphins. Now, the Bills are off the back of a nice little win against the Jets, who you mentioned before, were just not really there. And the Dolphins, a loss against the Patriots, Cam Newton's Patriots. Tough one to take, but I think it was expected. Bills favourites going into this one, minus 5.5 on the spread. But do you guys reckon that Fitzmagic can bounce back after a disappointing week 1 showing?
It's so hard to say with Fitzmagic. I think we've seen this, but you can't call it with him. Because he'll have it where he might go 3 games in a row of 4 picks, and if he doesn't get benched, he'll suddenly come out and go for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns or something ridiculous. I don't think he's going to be a bounce back in this game. I think this is going to be a slow decline into just the media pressure of put tour in becomes ridiculous, which I think the Dolphins shouldn't necessarily cave to.
Yeah.
I think just keep him out for almost as long as possible. I don't think you're not playing to win anything this year. But the Bills, Josh Allen, there was a couple points he looked a bit shaky as well. But I think there's teeth, and obviously he's got Stephon Diggs there. No offseason again. I think I'm not reading too much into it. I think the Bills will take this one comfortably and kind of keep rolling, keep moving on. I don't see too much to sort of debate on with this. I think the Dolphins, it's not there for him. I don't think Fitzmagic will do it. I don't think they should put Tua in.
No,
I 100% agree with everything Matt's just said. The Buffalo Bills, for me, take this one quite comfortably. I don't expect Josh Allen to have a blow-up insane game. I think the Dolphins will handle themselves comfortably. They didn't look terrible against the Patriots, so I can't imagine that this is a blowout, but I think the Bills will take it comfortably. I've said this multiple times since we kind of started this podcast and released I think it was our second season preview, which was on the Dolphins. The thing that you're looking for from the Dolphins this season is the sparks. It's the showing here and there. And I think we saw that last week, where in not falling apart to what is potentially going to be quite a good Patriots team. All we need, from a Dolphins kind of, if you're a Dolphins fan, you just want to see showing the signs. You don't want your young quarterback in there getting beat up. Show us the signs, because in a couple of years you could be very good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I'm taking the Bills as well. I can't see past the Dolphins on this one. Although, yeah, like you said, Matt, a few cracks began to show maybe with Josh Allen against the Jets. A couple of fumbles, I think it was, and a few missed throws.
Yeah,
but
a few weird decisions.
Weird
decisions. But
I still think he's the more talented quarterback, and they're the more talented team in general. I'm taking the Bills as well. But of course, Bills play the Jets, so it makes sense that we move on to the Jets game in week 2. Where they host the 49ers, who are just off the back of a loss to the Cardinals, a shock loss, some may say. 49ers were favourites in that game in week 1, but they're also favourites again in this game, minus 6.5 points on the spread. But the 49ers should walk this game, right, Sam?
Yeah, they should. I don't see any world in which the Jets win this game. In fact, the only regrettable thing about this matchup is that Adam Gase isn't going to be on the field for Nick Bosa to just destroy behind that offensive line.
You're gunning for him tonight.
Jesus.
I'd like to see Gase start at quarterback over Sam Darnold in this one. Let Gase take those hits that he's putting Sam Darnold in for. I don't really have much more to say. I don't think anyone thinks the Jets have got a shot at this one.
I'm genuinely worried that we might see. This is the 49ers are coming out now, and they're going to be like, right, we've got to sort this. We can't let this slide at all. I could almost see this being close to a shutout. Just the 49ers come out and just absolutely just dominate them and just kind of assert themselves back as we are a good team. We're a good defense. Forget week 1. We're getting it going towards we're looking to the end of the season. We're getting it rolling again, and I think they're going to be coming out angry. And I would not want to be a Jets player.
You could lock this one up as potentially the most boring game of the week because the 49ers are going to be able to play in whatever way they want.
Yep.
The Jets aren't going to be able to stop them in the run game, so the 49ers are going to come out. They're going to dominate time of possession. It would not surprise me if it's not like 40 minutes Niners time of possession, 20 minutes Jets. They will really dominate it. They'll run the clock down. The Jets, the one person that might have a good week this week is if the Jets punter can pull it together and he gets a lot of punt yards because he's just punting all the time. The Niners, this is going to be a boring game. It might not even be outrageously high scoring just because the Niners are running the clock down. We'll just run every single play. Jimmy Garoppolo throws 4 times. Boring game. Niners should win quite comfortably.
Could see it as almost a low 20s or even under 20s scoring game, but with all of them for San Francisco.
Yeah.
And just the Jets be like, why did we even go out?
Yeah.
What was the point in us being here? But I think what we're saying is that Jets punter Braden Marn for special team player of the week. Is that the hot take on this one?
Wouldn't be shocked.
Lock it up.
Yeah, lock it up.
Lock it up.
Put your house on that.
He needs like average net yards of like 55 yards per punt. So he's gonna have to bomb them every time. But he's gonna be out there hitting nukes. I guarantee it.
For the brand. That's all we're saying.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that's enough about the Jets and how bad they've been. And we'll move on to a team that Sam is very, very fond of.
Two teams. This is my most anticipated matchup for the week, I think.
So, go on, Sam. Lead us into it. What is that matchup?
We are talking Denver Broncos at Pittsburgh Steelers. We've got the Steelers favoured by an entire touchdown, which I like. I think the Steelers are a very good side. And the Steelers just coming off of a victory over my New York Giants. I thought my New York Giants played actually not too horrific.
Except
but Barkley's had better games. But that just shows how strong this run defense is. And when you look at the way that with Cortland Sutton out, the Denver Broncos, as Drew Lock kind of feels his way into the offense, and KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy feel their way into the league, they're probably going to want to lean on that run game maybe a little bit more than they were hoping to at the start of the season. Mm-hmm. So I think that those running backs are just going to be running as an absolute buzzsaw of a defensive line.
Philip Lindsay as well might not play. I think it's turf toe.
Yep.
So he's debatable for that, which makes this an even worse situation, I think.
And the big thing for me as well, which I really liked coming back, watching some of the highlights of the Pittsburgh game, is Juju Smith-Schuster might be back now that we've got we said it I said it at the start of the season. If Chase Claypool comes out and Jonty Johnson come out and they look like they're legit wide-out threats, line them up on the outside and they can make big plays, that's going to open up Juju. And Juju had a good game. And he also had a couple of plays. There was one play in particular where he was running behind Benny Snell and he was playing just positive, eyes on the ball, locked-in football. Benny Snell fumbled, I believe, and Juju was there, ready to pounce on it. Really liked the way Juju looked. And I just think Juju and Big Ben are locked in. I think this offense is just going to get better. So I'm really positive on both of these teams, but I think that Steelers defense just looked so good against the run, and against a team that's missing its wide out one and is going to be relying on a lot of young players. They're going to want to lean on the run, and that's just a buzzsaw defensive line. It's not happening.
I think for me, just purely off the Steelers defense, I'm taking the Steelers all day long in this one. The one thing I'm not getting too amped up about this Steelers offense just yet, because it was against the Giants, and the defense, the Giants they're not going to be a good defense this year. But I think it was positive signs. Connor, though, going off injured, is it going to be a bit of a season where he just can't quite stay on the field? I mean, it looks like they're going to be able to sort of call it together. They've got the guys there to fill it in. But that was just for that one game against, as I said, what I think is a bad defense. So I'm kind of holding before I get too excited about him. There was still a couple Big Ben decisions but for the most part, he did look good, is what you expect from Big Ben. So I think I'm taking the Steelers. I'm concerned for the Broncos here. They could get on a slide. That if they come out, there was a lot of hype, and if they come out 0-2, and a few injuries, a few more happen, they start to build up.
I think they've been hit by the wrong injuries. They've been hit by the real wrong injuries. Like Jerry Jeudy, he is now probably going to face a lot more double coverages than you would have liked your rookie first-round receiver to be facing. Because if you've got Sutton the other side, that just frees up space for Jeudy. With him not there, as KJ Hamler, I think as KJ Hamler works into the league, that will free up Drew Lock to go deep. And I think this is an offense that will look a lot better in week 12, 13, 14, 15 than they do at the start of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And especially just against this Steelers defense, I can't see it happening. However, I'm still positive for the Broncos. This is the kind of team that I think you could see them go 0-4, but they could still be in the mix at the end of the year if they get things together.
Yeah, and it's a rough couple of games to begin with as well. Going against the Titans week 1, Steelers week 2. It's no easy challenge. So I think you're right there, Sam. Don't rule them out just yet, for sure. Now another team, even more closer to your heart, Sam, I think. The New York Giants, week 2, going in to Chicago to play the Bears. Obviously, the Bears off of that magical win against the Lions. But my question on this one, with the Bears going in as favourites, is which Mitch Trubisky are we going to see? Are we going to see the fourth quarter Mitch Trubisky against the Lions, where he scored 3 touchdowns, or the rest of the game where he was...
rubbish.
He was the old Mitch Trubisky that we know and love. Which one are we going to see?
You know what? This might be getting a bit more towards what we did at the start of the episode with some of these takes. I really like that Mitch Trubisky, it didn't start obviously how he would have wanted, but I think he's come out and said, he almost said to himself, don't think about the stats, don't think about like the stick you might get, kind of get it together, and he did, and he led the comeback. And I think if he can get some confidence in himself and get it rolling a bit, we've already said there's a good defense here in this Bears team. I think I'm going with the Bears to take this game. I think they will have enough to take the Giants. And I'm liking what I saw that week 1. Obviously, it's very easy to overreact to things, but I think they're going to be able to give a bit more than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And I think we might start to see Mitch Trubisky finally. I'm not saying he's going to be MVP candidate. He's going to be nothing incredible, but at least start to live up to the fact that they traded up to draft him and all this stuff, and maybe make the Bears have to think at the end of the year about, do we give him a contract? Are we keeping him around? I think if he can get his head straight and get some confidence, I think it's going to be good to watch.
I think this time next week, everyone is going to be talking about, should Nick Foles be in?
Wow. Two different ends of the spectrum here.
I think that game against the Lions was more of the Lions falling apart and than the Chicago Bears playing very well. Yes, Trubisky, he put it together when he needed to, and there is that clutch element, and I'm not completely saying that he doesn't have it in him or that he didn't do it, which he did. But with the sample size that we've got, I think to say one quarter in one game where he looked legit against a team that clearly just fell apart, I don't want to take that. When you look at the rest of the game, I mean, they let Adrian Peterson, who is an aging running back who's just been cut by Washington, who doesn't really have any great running backs there, they let him just waltz all over them. I mean, I think he ran for 98 yards or something silly, and it was also in one of those ones. There was not like a big play that came up. He just was consistently pounding, getting yards here and there. Now that worries me because, I mean, like, that's against a defense that we would consider is very good. Up until the start of the fourth quarter, everyone would go, this game's a lock-up. The Lions have got it sorted. The Lions have looked good offensively. The Bears haven't looked that great defensively. They haven't looked anything offensively. And then, yes, the Lions fell apart. So I actually think this is a win for the Giants. This is one that at the start, if you'd have asked me before week 1, I probably would have said the Bears take this based off of that defense. But having seen Daniel Jones... Yes, he made some mistakes in that game against the Steelers, but that Steelers defense may well be the best defense in the league at this point. After week 1, that is a buzzsaw of a defense. So I think if Daniel Jones can put up a performance of that level, that will be enough to beat this Bears defense. I don't think Saquon comes in and lays another egg like this. I mean, if Adrian Peterson can rush for 100 yards, or just under 100 yards, then Saquon can come in and get a job done. Really liked the look of Darius Slayton in week 1.
Yes,
I think there's
100%.
I think there's a number of other pieces on that offense that we didn't even really start to see getting involved as much. So I think this is the kind of thing that could turn into a shootout, and at which point I would back Danny Dimes over Trubisky, because I just don't think Trubisky's a guy who can deliver over 4 quarters. He might have one good quarter, and I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a close-scoring game, potentially a shootout. Not as convinced by that, but I would take the Bears to take the game. But against the spread, I'm definitely looking at the Giants there. 4.5. I'll be backing the Giants against.
You guys need to back Danny Dimes. Money line.
Nah.
I'm betting on the Bears. There. I'm taking the Bears. Like,
I'm giving you something by backing the spread for the Giants at least, right?
I mean, I ain't even
that should be
that.
enough. I'm going.
I trust that you'll only lose by 4.5 points.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a close scoring game, though, I think. But moving it swiftly on into 2 teams who suffered very disappointing defeats in week 1. The Vikings going in to Indianapolis to play the Colts. Sam, who have you got coming out on top of this game?
Oh, this is a really hard one to call after week 1.
Yep.
Because the Colts showed me all of the things that I wanted to see and that I expected to see from the Colts in week 1. But they also showed me all of the things that I didn't want to see from the Colts in week 1. Mainly my biggest fear, which was Phillip Rivers might kind of be done, and maybe actually last year wasn't him just having a bad year. There was a couple of throws he made, even on completions, where he did not look comfortable throwing the ball. It didn't look like he had the arm for it anymore. He looked like he couldn't move about in the pocket, and that worried me. A lot of checkdowns to the running back. I know he's done that across his career, but there were times where it literally looked like he wasn't even thinking about anything else on the field. It was just, yep, take the easy dump off, let Nyheim Hines run. And that worries me a little bit. Maybe they're not going to be dynamic enough to be a really good offense like I thought they could be. So maybe Phillip Rivers holds them back. The Minnesota Vikings, yes, they lost a game to the Green Bay Packers, but the Green Bay Packers looked really good. Really good.
Yeah.
And even that defense for the Green Bay Packers, it was a bit leaky. The Vikings were putting up points, but I mean, the defense, the Packers, last couple of years, it's kind of what they do. They're an opportunistic defense. Yeah, they kind of give up points, but they pounce when they need to, and they do create turnovers, which allows them to win these higher scoring affairs. So I think if the Colts come out and play at a similar level to how they did last week, then the Vikings should lock this up pretty comfortably. And with the Colts at -3, I think I'm taking the Vikings.
Oh yeah, I'm taking the Vikings all the way. I think with this one, I mean, I said it in our team preview for the Colts. Rivers, this is his last. He's done. And I think we saw shades of it. I've been saying this since he went there, that this isn't the right move for them. And we've already started to see it. And I think this is a game for the Vikings to bounce back, kind of steady themselves a bit. Obviously, had a few guys out on that on the defensive side of the ball. So just kind of to settle into it a bit. Like obviously, you said they put up points. And I think being burnt that hard by Aaron Rodgers, they're not the only team to ever have that happen to them, and they will not be the last. Whereas
also,
this Philip Rivers offense, I think Philip Rivers should get exposed more and more throughout this year, I think.
For a team getting beat by Aaron Rodgers in the kind of fashion that they got beat, where it was... it wasn't a back and forth game, but they were always in a game that they were probably kind of the underdogs in anyway. Aaron Rodgers was playing at probably the best we've seen him play in a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's not like a soul-destroying defeat. It's week one. Yeah, you can rationalise that a lot easier than the Colts coming in against a team that around the league everyone thought they could be picking at number one, and suddenly you allow Gardner Minshew to go 95% completion, 3 touchdowns, and you don't look great against a team that everyone thought was going to be bad. And for all we know, the Jags are bad. It's just the Colts are worse.
Yeah, that is the concern.
And potentially getting worse as well with that unfortunate injury to Marlon Mack as well, which is
let's not talk about that.
very sad to see. Sam obviously owns Marlon Mack.
Traded to him from me in the off season.
Good lord, that is not panned out. I mean, who would have thought that was coming? But even before
moving on, we have the Los Angeles Rams.
No. Even before the injury, Nyheim Hines looked like he was going to do the work for them. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens week 2, but just sad that Marlon Mack obviously out for the season.
Got a feel for him.
Sucks for him, especially being in contract year. It's not going to be a good market for him at the end of next year. Fingers crossed for him. He gets some form of decent deal, but I can't imagine he's going to get paid like he thought he might.
I reckon part of that 49ers 3, 4, 5-headed monster they seem to run into their running back room of just a guy that will fill a role up there. That kind of backfield, I think, that's him next season.
Yeah, sounds about right. But moving it on to a team we've just mentioned, the Jacksonville Jaguars, going into Tennessee to play the Titans. Now, Sam, the Titans are heavy favourites here at minus 8.5 on the spread. Ooh. Do you really think that Minshew Mania is going to continue into week 2 for the Jaguars?
95%, mate.
There we go.
95%.
So what's the 5%?
5%. That's just him throwing like, I don't know, the odd...
just making it look fair.
He throws it away. He throws it away. It gets to... That's him spiking the ball at the end of the game. That's just 3 snaps, take a knee, put the ball down.
Okay,
cool.
Okay. So, but you're confident then?
It's cool.
I think this is all getting shut down week 2. I hate to spoil all the fun. I think this could be a closer game. I think I'm re-debating this one with the spread and how I'm going to go about that this weekend. But I think the Titans take this. I think they're just going to be a very almost sensible, not necessarily an interesting, fun to watch team. They're just going to go out, get business done, roll on, kind of that kind of a team. And I think I think it's going to be the opposite of the Jags. I think the Jags are going to be a lot of fun to watch, but just maybe not in this game. I just think this is the Titans going to come out, get business done, move on.
The Titans, I think, could be one of the most boring-ass teams of the season in the sense that everybody knows what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Derrick Henry's just a monster. They got a decent offensive line. Tannehill is just about good enough to check the ball down and get it out. He's going to fit the system. And I don't think they're going to set the world on fire. I really don't. But people can have a hard time stopping them. And there is every chance that Jacksonville comes out and buries the Titans just because, like Matt said, they could be a much more exciting... Minshew could just go off.
Just light them up early, yeah.
But, realistically, probably not going to happen. The Titans are probably going to control the game. They're going to look after the ball. They're going to play boring-ass football, and they're going to win games doing that.
Yep.
Well, I was hopeful that Minshew Mania was going to continue, but you've sort of destroyed my hopes and dreams.
I mean, he is 95%, mate.
95% of the time. Okay, I'll give you that.
95% of the time works every time.
We'll see what happens in that one. Definitely one to watch though. See if Sam's prediction or outrageous reaction, as we called it, comes true. But right, moving on once more. let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams going into Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Now, obviously, Philly coming off the back of a strange loss to Washington, and the Rams off of a Monday night, or was it a Sunday night game against the Cowboys, where they picked up the dub.
Sunday
night.
My question on this one is it possible for Carson Wentz to get sacked maybe 9 times this week or
No,
10?
because he's going to get sacked probably on the third one by Aaron Donald so hard that's him done. I'm genuinely worried having him in my fantasy team. I'm not putting him in because I think he could get hurt this game. What Aaron Donald did to that Cowboys O-line, there was a point he picked up Zeke and threw him into Dak. Wentz has just been sacked 8 times. This isn't going to be pretty.
When you're using the other team's offensive weapons as weapons against him, then you know that you're an animal. I feel so sorry for Carson Wentz. I mean, has there ever been such a talented quarterback come into the league, have a decent rookie year, be on fire and have the perfect team around him, be in the race for MVP, miss out on getting the chance to lead his team to a historic Super Bowl because he got injured, and then the next couple of years just get horrifically mauled with injuries, and it just seems like the universe doesn't want Carson Wentz to reach his full potential, and I feel really bad for him. I agree with Matt. This could be the week that you see Carson Wentz get knocked for 10, 12, 30, who knows how many. But that offensive line looked bad.
Yeah. I think Washington's front, people didn't give it that sort of... They weren't giving it enough credit, and I think the impact was Chase Young and stuff. They could actually do this in a few more games, because they did look hard to deal with, but this is an equally hard to deal with front to try and pass the ball on, so yeah. I think I'm going to hold my hands up now, and I was very high on the Eagles all off-season. I think there's going to be games where they're fun to watch, and they do put up good offensive numbers, but I think it's going to be a similar story to last season of them. They're just going to be trying to piece something together. They're almost starting with a handicap in every game of just playing from behind.
The Rams secondary as well looked really good against the Cowboys, and that is a Cowboys team with a lot of weapons. I don't think anyone's arguing or suggesting that the Cowboys, the Eagles, have got anywhere near the kind of offensive weapons that the Cowboys have. I cannot see a world in which the Eagles can compete in that secondary. I just don't. And Goff came out and looked good.
Yeah,
so I actually think this Rams at -1.5 is one of the better lockups of the week.
Yeah.
How the line's that low, I don't understand really, especially after week 1. If before week 1 I'd have seen that, I'd have gone, yeah, kind of makes sense. But the Rams came out and looked maybe a little bit better than I expected them to look, and the Eagles came out and looked much worse. So lock up the Rams for this week, I'd say.
Yep. 100%.
I'd agree. Tight spread, take the Rams. Easy money there. Right, next game is the Atlanta Falcons. Coming off a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, going into Dallas to play the Cowboys, who we just mentioned, who got beat by the Rams. And this, for me, is potentially quite an even and exciting matchup. Especially to watch Hayden Hurst. Big fan of that guy. Mention it every week. But Matt, who are you favouring in this matchup?
I'm taking the Cowboys. I think they get it back on track here.
Damn it.
I think the Falcons, they did look good. They threw the ball well, but I think it's the Cowboys team that they just couldn't deal with Aaron Donald on the day, and they couldn't deal with the secondary. But I just think they get it back on track here. Zeke still looked good. I think that touchdown we had, four players in front of him, takes them all out of the game in one cut, powers to the line. I think this is just a game the Cowboys get it back on track, and by the end of the season, we don't remember too much of that week 1 sort of game where there was a few bits where you're like, oh, that line used to look solid all the time. I think they kind of get it back on track here, but I think it'll be a good game, a close game. This could be a shootout for me. This could be a big game.
I was about to say I wouldn't want to. So in terms of betting-wise, I'm probably avoiding this one because I think this is one of those games that is going to be very high scoring. I think I could make an argument for either side. I think the Falcons have got a very leaky defense. The Cowboys have got potentially a very good offense if they get going. The Falcons, I think, have got a very good offense. This is this is an offense that could be one of the best offenses in the league as we roll on. They've got that potential. They've got all the weapons. So I wouldn't be... I don't want to put my neck on the line and say, yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys at -4.5. And on the flip side, I wouldn't want to take the Falcons at +4.5. I would, however, be hammering the over, and I don't even know what the over is, but just hammer it.
I was going to mention that the over for this one is, I think, in the top 2 highest of the week at about 51.
Yeah, hammer that.
51 points. So
that's an implied point total of what, 25.5 points each. So that's an implied points total of like 29.5 points for the Cowboys, 21.5 points for the Atlanta Falcons. #quick maths. So I'm taking that. I think the Cowboys can score 30 on this Falcons defense, and I think the Falcons can score 21 on the Cowboys defense. 100%. So hammer that over.
Yeah, they'll certainly keep up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this matchup.
Big fantasy game, this one, I reckon. There's going to be some weak winners coming out of this matchup, I reckon.
Calvin, ridiculously good.
I was going to say, hopefully for me, Calvin Ridley. He was the only bright spark on my team last week, so...
We'll move on from all of our fantasy.
It could be worse, mate.
We'll save that for the fantasy.
Yeah, we're all
episode.
disappointed, but you'll find out about that at a later episode this week. But yeah, moving on to the last game at 6 p.m. in the UK or 1 p.m. in the US, and that is the Panthers, fresh off the back of a nice little loss to the Raiders, going into Tampa Bay to play your Buccaneers, Matt.
Yes.
Now, do you reckon that Brady and co can get it together this game?
I think this
team
game
that we expected.
It's on. We will either win this for ourselves or lose it for ourselves. Like that Saints game, whether it's the decisions, the penalties, certain members of the offensive line just apparently not being there, not showing up, and just getting pancaked too much. I think this is. I think we'll win. I think I'm going to back us to kind of bring it back, get it together. But I think this coaching staff, I would not want to be in that facility this week. I think they are going to be kind of going old school hairdryer treatment on some of these players, and just letting them know you cannot do that. If you do it again, you know what Aaron is like. Bye, you're gone, sort of thing. I think there were some bright points. I think the defense obviously gave away too many points, but put themselves in some poor spots. But for the most part, looked pretty good, and especially David and Devin White, I think are going to be a mean pairing for this season. I think it's just teething pains on offense. It's going to take time. We haven't had the preseason games, so I'm not overreacting. I've seen some Bucs fans on Twitter being like, "Cancel the season. It's all over. It's done." I don't think so. I think the Panthers look better than I expected, as well. Do not just talk about all the Bucs. I think that young defense was better than I thought. Still a bit leaky, but I thought it could be worse against that Raiders team week 1. Potentially be a much bit more one-sided game. But I think we'll have enough here to kind of get things back on track a little bit and just settle everyone down. Because I think one thing you're going to have is Brady coming out not wanting to, he's going to, everything on Twitter is like a Brady meme. There's what is it, the Brady, can I see the manager? Carry go. I think things like that, he's the kind that I could see really getting in his head and deciding, right, I've got to pull it together. So I think some of the throws he made, you were thinking, I was like, hang on, people have been talking about the cliff he could fall off. It was the first time I sort of had that in the back of my head a little bit since he signed, but I think we'll pull it together. I think we'll take it this week and kind of get ourselves back on track.
So, I have a real issue. Well, not an issue. I struggle to kind of know where I'm at with the Buccaneers at the moment because I don't like overreacting to week 1 in the NFL, especially this year without having had a preseason and for Brady coming in, new system, blah blah blah, and it's not an easy system to pick up, the Bruce Arians system. A lot of very good quarterbacks have struggled in their first year in the system. This for me is all about how they respond to last week.
Yes.
They didn't lose in the best manner to the Saints. It's not like they went out and looked overly competitive. I think the Saints won that game quite comfortably, and I didn't look at that and think like, oh, this is a close game, and this is the kind of one that this is going to be a toss-up later in the season. Going off what I've seen, if both teams kind of just keep getting better, then at the end of the season, the Saints should quite comfortably win that game again. obviously that doesn't happen. Teams move around, and they're like, hopefully, and for all the Bucs fans, and what Brady has done in the past is, as the season goes on, they hit their form and they get much better. But this Panthers team, yes, they're much better than we expected offensively, but I think the defense for the Buccaneers looked, on the whole, very promising.
Yeah.
So I think they should be able to handle the Panthers' defense. The big thing I want to see is how does Brady look in terms of being on the same page as all of his receivers. And yes, I know there were issues. There was the one interception where Arians kind of came out and said, well, it was Brady, he threw it to the wrong place, and then he flipped on that, and there were questions over, right, was Evans going the wrong way and Brady read it right, or was Evans making the right read and Brady got it right? I don't care who made the right read or not. I want them on the same page.
That can't happen with your number one.
Yeah, and especially when you're going up against a defense that is very young, very leaky. If you're making those plays and they're capitalizing on that, that to me shows some real issues that can't necessarily be turned round quick enough. Like, yes, if it's just a couple of like jumps and silly fouls here and there. But if you can't get on the same page as your receiver, as your number one receiver inside of the first 4-5 weeks of the NFL season, especially against defenses that are potentially as squiffy as the Carolina Panthers, then I really struggle to see how you're going to put yourself to be in a position later in the season. Now, don't take this as me overreacting, going, oh my God, they're out, they're done, Brady can't get it together. But the concerns are there. And these are things, these are the issues they were having at the weekend against the Saints are issues that you almost never saw Brady have in New England.
Mm-hmm.
Now that worries me a little bit.
I think the big
not going to freak out, but it does worry me a little bit. And I know I don't want to be the guy who goes, oh, you need to fix it now, otherwise that's the season over. But if they get 4 weeks in and they're still having this issue, then that's going to really worry me, considering there are some other teams who came out, and I'm thinking, you're probably not going to be able to get past them in the NFC.
I think the big thing for me on the Mike Evans point, obviously that interception, that's worrying. But I think he had, 3 big PI calls against him, where one of them, good deep ball from Brady. That was one thing I did see that I liked. The deep ball was there. And I think without maybe 2 of those PI calls, you're looking at Evans having up near an 80-yard game. There's not as many questions. But I think, it's a lot to iron out. But I think the big things for me as well, Scotty Miller. Brady loves that type of receiver. Looked good week 1 against a harsh defense. I want to see that grow this week. And Rojo, there was a couple things where it looked like he was maybe about to break one, but he looked better. A lot better than last season. Was given the share of carries. So, yeah, obviously I'm going Bucks here. But I think I want to see us look a lot more convincing. I want to see the defense keep the Panthers to a low score. And I want to see Brady just look efficient and just get the job done sort of thing. And just cut the penalties.
I'm taking the Panthers at +9.
That's what I was about to mention. That spread is the highest of the week at -9.
The Buccaneers have not showed me anything that makes me confident that they're a considerably better offense than the Raiders are at this point. They just haven't. Yeah. And I don't want to put my money on something. I think the Buccaneers probably win the game, but I mean, I probably wouldn't even take them at -7 at this point. I think they win by 7 maximum. It's a 1-score game to me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. If I'm betting, I'm doing it very nervously on the Panthers against the spread, but I don't really know. It's hard to call for me on this one. Really hard to call for me. Okay, so moving on to the Washington football team going in to Arizona and facing the Cardinals. Now, both of these teams are fresh off the back of underdog victories against the Eagles and 49ers, respectively. Cardinals a little bit favourites here, -6.5. Sam, is that a fair spread? And who would you take here?
I don't know if it's a fair spread. It's quite a high spread, but going off of week 1, let's just take the 2 games. The Washington football team beat a went and beat a beaten up Eagles team, a team that scraped into the playoffs last year, who've got a number of injuries, who've basically patched together an offensive line. The Arizona Cardinals went in and beat a team that very almost won the Super Bowl last year, who were returning the majority of the main pieces of that team that went to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, one of the things I always talk about that's massive every year is continuity on rosters. The teams that often look the best are the ones with the most continuity, because there's the least variables changing. They're just keeping things the same, perfecting the things. Like, we saw the Chiefs looked incredible, and they've got so much continuity, so the Chiefs looked great. The Niners had that continuity, and the Cardinals went and beat them and looked good doing it, and Kyler Murray looked good doing it. Not taking anything away from the Washington football team, they massively outperformed my expectations for what they can be and for what they potentially could evolve into. I still don't think they're good offensively at all. I don't think they're a good offense, but I think that defense is considerably better than I was expecting it to be. But I mean, the Cardinals went and did it against who I thought was going to be one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. So my money's on the Cardinals any day.
Yep. Sorry, Washington. It's last time you're going to see yourself sitting at the top of that division. It's downhill from here. Your season's peaked, I think, personally. Like, you come out, you've got the big win in division, but I think they will look good, and you'll see this. The defense will look good throughout the year. But I think this is going to be them kind of instantly almost being humbled back down to earth a bit, and I'm taking the Cardinals with the spread. I think the Cardinals light them up here a little bit. I think you're going to see Murray. It's a very different offense to look good as a defense, especially getting 8 sacks. Getting 8 sacks on Carson Wentz, I think it's a bit easier than Kyler Murray, who you get there by the time you're through the line. Oh, where's he gone? Oh, he's in the end zone. Like that touchdown he just looked shifty. He looked very good. I think, yeah, I'm not really debating this one at all. For me, it's just Cardinals are going to take it, and they're going to take it comfortably, I'd say.
Yep, I 100% agree. Washington football team down 17 points, I think it was, against the Eagles. Obviously, that nice little comeback, but I don't think the Cardinals would be as forgiving this week. So I would take the Cardinals as well. Against the spread as well, I'll take the Cardinals on that one. Right. Moving on to a team that played on Thursday night, the first game of the season. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously beat the Texans. They're going into Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Now, Chiefs looked pretty good week 1. Are they only going to start looking better and better in week 2, Matt? And how much does Clyde Edwards-Helaire really have a say in that as well?
I don't think this is a case of needing to look better and better, because I think they're just carrying on from last year. I think they're already playing like you'll see other teams. I'd say they've almost maybe got a 4 or 5 week head start, because they didn't need a preseason this year. That retention, Sam already spoke about it, and Edwards-Helaire hit the ground quite literally running, and I think he keeps going with that. I think this isn't going to be a lot of fun for the Chargers. I think this is going to be the Chiefs kind of just getting. I said it about the Titans, but this is going to be the Chiefs getting business done. They'll do it in a more flashy way because it is that offense, but Chiefs get business done for me here. Take that game and sort of just roll on, move on. They're just thinking, and they're thinking January. I think they know.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? They're at mid-season form, and they look like they did in the Super Bowl. They really do look that good, or maybe not that good, but they look that much better than everybody else looked.
Yeah,
like they came out week 1, no issues. They've got the continuity. They've kind of they look as good as they did, and they're not kind of at the stage. At this time last year, the Chiefs that came out the first 5 or 6 weeks of last season were not the same team that kind of went all the way to the Super Bowl. They hadn't found themselves yet. They hadn't really worked into it. Then they worked into it. They got to that elite level. They went on a run. They won the Super Bowl. And however they've done it, through continuity, keeping people around, staying dialed in, they're still there. They're the same team. And I think that's almost where the Niners are not the same team, or they don't feel quite like the same team. They've got a bit of a ways to get back there. They've got a lot of the same players. They just they're not in that same place. I think the Chiefs are in exactly the same place. And my money at this point is for the Chiefs to run it back. I could see the Chiefs going all the way this year. Don't see any reason why they wouldn't be. Can't really see a team competing with them. The only one I see could potentially compete is the Ravens, but I actually don't think the Ravens are as good offensively. So, lock the Chiefs up with this one.
One thing I'm a little bit guard against in this one is that Edwards-Helaire won't. I don't think it'll be as standout. I think he'll have a good game again, a solid game, but I don't think it's maybe going to be. Was it 25 carries he had?
25 carries. That's
I
outrageous.
don't know if he gets that
Hell of a
again.
lot.
And I would be worried if he gets that across a year. If they try and do that too much, he's not the biggest guy. There's going to be some matchups he comes up against where
16 times 25 touches. That'd be like what 400 touches.
So I think people need to
I'll take your word.
Yeah, I can't do that. People need to rate it in a little bit. Maybe not expect him to go as mad, but yeah.
But they don't need him to.
No,
not against the Chargers anyway. Not against the Chargers.
He's a complementary piece to Pat Mahomes, and it just meant in that game it suited to let him run wild.
Yeah, exactly.
I think early doors, Sam, you said the Chiefs. For the Chiefs, it was the rich get richer when talking about that pickup, and game one proved that. And moving forward, I think we're just going to see that proven more and more. So great shout there, Sam. Early doors.
Cheers, buddy. I do know my stuff.
Well. Yeah, I'd have to agree.
What an endorsement.
I wanted to fight against it. My initial reaction is to fight, but I can't fight that because, I'd say the same to you as well, mate. Sharing the love around on this podcast. Sharing the love to everyone. But
nicer than me.
Third to last game we're going to talk about for week 2 is actually a repeat of week 11 last season. And that is the Baltimore Ravens going in to Houston and playing the Texans. Obviously, the Ravens off of a blowout win over the Browns, which they've now had the last 3 seasons. Week 1 has been a blowout every time for the Ravens, which is a nice little stat. And in fact, last time these teams played, it ended 41-7 to the Ravens. So, what do the Texans need to do here to get a result, Matt?
Wow.
How long you got?
Pray. I don't know. Slip someone in their Weetabix. I don't know. They're going to need something to help them in this game. I don't think they're going to. I think the Ravens just keep rolling here. I think as well, although it wasn't as flashy a scoreline, it was still a blowout. They didn't hit the high 50, 60 point kind of target. That's just because the Browns are a bit better than some other teams they face. I think here they just deal with them comfortably. Deshaun Watson will give him a good game. I think we're going to see that offense develop. It looks like an offense that needed a number 1 receiver against the Chiefs. And I think although this isn't an easy defense to go up against, I think they start to kind of grow into it, get used to what he's got there. And I think I'm mainly watching Will Fuller in this game to see, can he do it again? Can he become a guy that can do it week on week? And I'm optimistic.
He can if he can stay on the field.
But I think, I'm taking the Ravens here. I think the Ravens take this one and move on.
I agree with that. Where you kind of said, what do the Texans have to do to win this game? I think it's the same thing the Texans kind of need to happen to win any of these games against the big contenders. The Texans are really... They're what the Texans always seem to be. They're a divisional round kind of quality team that are going to expect, or to have any chance of winning, they're going to need their star quarterback to do what their star quarterback can do, which is
been paid to do now.
Yeah, which is pull miracles out of his behind, and he could do it. If this time next week we're sat here saying Deshaun Watson had an absolutely insane game, threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and won the game in a great shootout, I would not be going, oh my God, I never saw that happening. It would be like, yeah, he is that good. However, the Ravens are the better team across the board. And the thing that I loved seeing last week is just the pure and utter confidence that Lamar Jackson portrayed. He gave me so much more confidence than I've ever had in him in general. I mean, it's It's not unheard of in the NFL or any sport for that matter for a kind of young, athletic phenomenon to come out and have a season where it just everything falls into place. And they everything comes in. I mean, you kind of saw it with Mo Salah in the Premiership, didn't you, a couple of years ago? Everything fell into place, and he just went on a run and scored a hell of a load of goals. But then when you kind of look back at it, and the other players on that team, he's probably not the best player on the team. He was right place. He had a great season, and it happens.
The right supporting cast.
Yeah. He was in the right place at the right time enough of the time, and it all comes together. And it's not unheard of in across all sports to just have that one standout season. And I was a bit wary of that coming into this season. Like, yeah, I think there's a chance there's some regression, and maybe that regression is quite considerable. And he kind of tends back towards being a top 10 guy rather than a top 2 guy.
Yeah.
But when you watch that win, yeah, there were a couple of errant throws, and he got bailed out on a couple of occasions.
Nailed him. That one-handed catch was
incredible. That was a dodgy throw. He effectively missed a wide open receiver, and Andrews went up and made an insane play.
Yep.
But the way he sat in that pocket, he looked like a pocket quarterback in that game, and a good one. Yeah, he moved his legs, and yeah, he ran for 40-odd yards. But he looked like a pocket guy who has that real potential to develop into being a guy who can command a game from a pocket.
Yeah.
I already know that he could run for 100 yards. The fact that I'm now sat there going, oh my God, not only have I got to worry about their rushing game and him and the dual threat aspect, but he could genuinely take the top off me here.
Hollywood Brown looked a little bit like a number one as well this week. He looked
and
good. He was getting targets.
I'm getting more and more confident that Lamar Jackson is good enough to sit in the pocket and take what the defense gives him and wait and let the plays develop. And I was worried that wasn't going to come. And the fact that this has come this early while he's in his career, while he's still just an athletic freak, if he keeps going like this, he would, for me, be an MVP front runner again.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And you know what? As the kids say, big trust.
Big trust.
We can all agree with that with the Ravens.
Shout out to David Johnson against the Chiefs. Yep. I want to see if he can keep it rolling this week. He looked like old David Johnson. He looked like he was back.
Please, I need it so bad.
I think that's the key. David Johnson, and then actually Brandon Cooks and Kenny Stills can't disappear this game.
Mm-hmm.
If the Texans have any chance, they've got to show up.
Yeah, so, and they need David Johnson to control that ball because you don't want to put it in the hands of that offense.
Yep, this is a game. I think for me, 100%. I'm making sure I've got this one on. I want to watch this. This could be a good game. I think
it's going to be exciting, and obviously Ravens favourites by minus 6.5 points. So on the spread, I'll be taking the Ravens, 100% there. But exciting game lined up for sure, as it always is with the Ravens. To be honest with you, at this point in time. Right, okay, moving on to the penultimate game, and that is the New England Patriots just beat the Dolphins in Week 1, are going to Seattle to face the Seahawks, who have also just won Week 1, but this time against the Falcons. Seahawks, slight favourites in this one, minus 4 points, but both teams look quite impressive in Week 1, so who do we think is really going to come out on top in this game?
I'm struggling with this one a little bit because there was something about that Patriots offense with Cam Newton in that I think is just going to get better as they all learn each other better and just get it figured out how, because they utilised him well, but how to perfectly utilise him. But I think if this game is 6-7 weeks down the line, I'd probably maybe give it to the Patriots, but the Seahawks looked good. Wilson did exactly what he needed to. They let him air it out a little bit. Chris Carson, very good performance. I mean, he did in flashes last year, so can he do it consistently? But I think for now in Week 2, I'm giving this to the Seahawks, but I think it could be close. I think Cam could make a game of this.
I mean, I've pretty much nothing else to say. Matt basically said exactly what I would have said.
It's happened a few times today.
The Patriots looked really good, but there were still issues in.
Oh yeah.
They didn't look like a fully formed, fully functioning offense yet. They look like they've got all the pieces in place and they're getting there. And I'm not betting against Belichick to get there. I think this could be a real dark horse team. On the verge of playoffs for me at the moment, especially as they evolve. They'll be there. But the Seahawks looked really good. And I think they win this game.
Yep. Agreed.
I think as well, we've taken them with the spread. I think they'll take this probably by a score, maybe more. Maybe in the end, I think they'll want, as the game goes on, start to kind of just take over it. But I think it'll be a good game for 3 quarters, and I could maybe just see Russ.
I would probably bet. I'm unsure of what the under is, but I think I'd be taking the under in this one because I think the Patriots defense will be good enough to hold the Seahawks, and I think the New England Patriots offense will have struggles kind of getting themselves going. Doubt they're going to be a high-scoring offense. I think they're just going to be a very efficient offense.
So it's just a quick on the over/under. It's one of the mid-range ones this week at 44.5 points.
Take the under, I think.
Take the under. Cool. And that brings us very nicely and roundly on to the final game, which is another Monday Night Football game. The New Orleans Saints going and playing the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, of course. Both off the back of some very nice wins. I know the answer to this one, but are we going to expect to see the same, if not more, from Josh Jacobs, Sam?
Mate, I'm going to let you take this one because I know you love him. I know you're a big JJ2K guy, but I think he will have a good game. I don't think it's going to be as good.
Much harder team, I think. To get
much harder team. I can't see the Raiders winning this game. I think the Saints are going to just keep rolling, play good defense, play efficient offense. Yes, if Michael Thomas is injured, you might kind of see them struggle a bit more. But I mean, even then, as Matt said earlier, he was pretty well contained in that game. They're still going to move the ball. Sean Payton is a very, very good offensive play caller, very creative. Can't see the Raiders winning the game, really.
I think the key for the Raiders in this, especially if Michael Thomas isn't out or is limited or is just sort of there as more of a decoy, isn't getting given a lot of the ball. Because the Bucs, we relatively shut down Kamara in terms of his rushing yards, but he still found the end zone, which is almost the flip of what we saw a lot of from Kamara last year. He could get the yards between the 20s. He was just getting in the end zone was a bit of a struggle. So I think when they get in the red zone, keeping Kamara at bay is going to be that's a key to the game for them, I think. But yeah, I think the Saints take this. I think they've got enough to edge it. But I think the Raiders give them more of a game than people could expect. There was some good positives from this Raiders team.
Yeah, I would say if this Raiders can win this game, they then I've got them on watch then as a kind of a coming up from behind. If they win this one, because I think the way that Gruden runs his teams, they're teams that can really feed off of momentum.
100%, yeah. I think that's some swag about them to get rolling.
Like Josh Jacobs, if he is getting used as a workhorse, and that's the way they're going to run, and this team just runs through Josh Jacobs, and they're just playing like hardcore pound football, and Josh Jacobs is getting it done, and they get on a roll, and it's the whole knock on wood if you're with me, and they just get a feeling about them. Then this is a team that could go on a run. So if they win this game, then I won't be betting against them next week, but I struggle to see them winning it.
Yeah. And just as a point as well, it is one of the top 3 for the under-overs this week at 51 points.
Really? I'd take the under on that because I think this Saints defense is very good.
But I mean, we still managed to get 24 points on them and we looked uncoordinated. Whereas this Raiders offense, I think, I would say I'd rather have that offense going off just week 1. Raiders offense look better. So I
against a much worse defense though.
True, there is more factors to it. I don't know. I'd be edged potentially, especially being a Monday night game. I don't know. I like the feel of that for taking the over.
It's a high one. It's a high one.
I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under.
Well, we'll have to wait and see on that one, but I'm excited for Josh Jacobs this week. I think he can really continue on his form. I really hope he can.
JJ2K.
JJ2K, big fan of that guy. Big plans for him. So, yeah, but that rounds up.
Plans for him.
That rounds up.
If only Adam Gase was the same with Le'Veon Bell.
Oh god,
Come
blooming
on.
Gase.
I've suffered enough.
Get
Perfect
out
combo.
of New Jersey. Get
Perfect
out
combo
of New
is just
Jersey.
Adam Gase and Brashad Perriman. That is just like the 1-2 punch in it. Like
Right, I
those
think that's
two.
all we've got.
Those two. Oh god.
Adam Gase, man. Adam Gase.
Brashad Perriman, man. Anyway, that's a nice way to round up our week 2 preview. I know we had a lot of fun with that one. And unless you boys have any other burning points to raise about next week or what happened in week 1.
Adam Gase.
Oh,
Okay.
Get out of New Jersey.
That brings us very nicely to the end
Muting
of
that
this episode. So, as ever, be sure to head over to YouTube. Go check us out. Go like, comment, and subscribe. Also, head over to Instagram and Twitter. We're at the Brit Iron on both of those platforms. As you can see, the social media links up there in the corner. But yeah, for now, thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time. See ya.